And she actually outlined several different reasons why this errand paralysis could happen. So I think this was one of them. Another one was boredom, because you've done the same thing over and over and over and over again, and really it just provides zero value compared to your actual work. So you're just like, why do I want to do it now? And I think with that one, you just kind of have to force yourself to do it unless you can delegate it.
Yeah.
And then there was the one about the paradox of choice, where because we have access to such great information and all these systems, many of our errands could be optimized, but there is 1,000 different decisions to make if you want them to be optimized. Like picking a doctor, you know.
Oh, I hate that.
I think
I still actually haven't picked one here.
That's because 30 years ago, you call up your uncle and be like, hey, we live in the same town still. Who's your doctor? And they'd tell you, and you, all right, sign me up. And now we're like, well, we need to go on like this doctor review website, and I'm going to like use a map.
What are their specialties?
What are the specialties? What are the star reviews? Are these
reviews? Do they take my insurance?
Do they look fake? And what's the proximity to my house? What's the proximity to the house that I'm, planning on moving to in a couple of months? And boom, like you've just created like a 6-hour
then
errand
like they do take your insurance. They're doing everything's great. We're not actually seeing new patients right now. You gotta start over. I'm so mad.
So there's all these choices. Like even with picking a mover, I've read all these horror stories about movers, and I didn't know how to like objectively evaluate them. So I'm just like, how do I pick a mover? And eventually, you know what I did? I just went on Reddit and I just put in like Denver movers and just read a couple of comments, and people were like, these people were good, and I just called them up.
Well, the same thing happens with like, okay, well, I think my house would be better if I just like, my vacuum's broke. I need a new vacuum. Well, let me just find out what the #1 best vacuum in the world is that's never once had a problem. I'm going to read all the reviews, and I'm going to get really confused. Is this review
tainted by affiliate marketing?
Well, this one's here right now. It's like physically in the store, but it's not as good because it's like 10 decibels louder than like this vacuum, which it also looks nicer, and I feel like it'd be easier to clean. Let me think about this. Oh, this one person, they had a bad experience with it, or oh, it's got BPA. I don't know what that is, but it sounds scary. It
probably causes cancer in California.
Probably everything causes cancer everywhere. We're all gonna die. But just the dumbest stuff. Otherwise, when I was like a teenager, if I needed a vacuum for some reason as a teenager, I don't know why I would need it as a teenager, but I would have just went to the store and been like, that's a vacuum in my price range.
I'll buy it.
It's probably good enough, and good enough doesn't seem good enough. We're supposed to be optimal.
Mm-hmm. And this kind of goes back to that whole, what's it called, any benefit approach from Deep Work. And he was talking about that in the context of using social media or not. Like, should I use this social media tool? And people will say yes, because it has this benefit. So, if there's any benefit whatsoever, then they will use the tool. And his advice is to think about, like, what are you losing if you choose to use this? Like, you're fragmenting your attention, you're giving away privacy, all these things. And I think we need to apply that to our errands and the things we buy as well. Like, yes, you get benefit out of going and doing a bunch of research on the best vacuum cleaner. You get some benefit. You may get like a marginally better vacuum cleaner. You may get a marginally better doctor who's like a 2-minute, less of a commute from your house. But what do you lose by spending all of that time doing that research? What do you lose in the quest to optimize everything?
Yeah.
Like, you end up with an unoptimized brain.
Yeah, and I don't know how many times I've just like, I've done the same thing with kitchen stuff, and I like won't even use it, and I'll be like, I must not be using it because it's not the right one.
Yeah.
Let's get a more complicated one.
Get a better one.
Let's get one that's even harder to maintain.
Yeah.
That'll do it.
Yeah. So we have with the errand paralysis, things that are boring, things that cause too many decisions, things that spawn too many decision trees, too many dependencies, things like that in our heads. And I feel like, at least for me, the answer is, accept a little bit of unoptimization.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the word to use there, but accept a little bit of imperfection.
Yeah, you need to be like almost an imperfectionist.
Mm-hmm.